Hello there. In this presentation, I'm going to be giving an overview of the problem solving and modelling task. This is the assignment that features in all 4 of the senior mathematics courses.
In this first video, I aim to give you an overview of the characteristics of the instrument and an understanding of problem solving, mathematical modelling, the QCAA's flowchart approach to problem solving, the ISMG and how your work will be marked, as well as the opportunities for intellectual and personal growth that this task provides. There are only 2 types of assessment instruments in the senior mathematics courses. You will be familiar with examinations. 80% of the marks in the general courses are from exams. Exams assess what you're taught in class and the questions you practice in the textbook. They assess your breadth of knowledge. To succeed, you will need to have fluency in the procedures and a mastery of the concepts so that you can answer simple and complex questions. All of the objectives are assessed, but there are not a lot of marks allocated to the communication, evaluation, or justification criteria. The PSMT makes up the other 20% of your marks. It focuses on a specific dot point or a subtopic from the syllabus and assesses your depth of knowledge. To succeed, you will need to be organised, motivated, and have critical and creative thinking skills. All of the objectives are assessed, but there is much greater focus on problem solving, communication, evaluation, and justification. So what is problem solving? I think this is a really good graphic that shows the complex nature of problem solving, but also the many steps that you will need to do in order to complete this type of task well. If we look in the syllabus, it describes problem solving as the ability to solve unfamiliar and non-routine problems that require a number of steps and processes. Mathematical modelling is the process of depicting a real-world scenario by using mathematical concepts and language and the assumptions and relationships in that representation. In your PSMT, you'll need to combine problem solving with mathematical modelling. You'll need to formulate your own model to solve a problem. To formulate a model, we need to consider that the real world is complex. A mathematical model is a simplified version of reality that we can use, logically, to solve problems or make predictions. We simplify the real world by making assumptions that allow us to focus on the key or easy to understand aspects. After we use our model to solve the problem, we need to consider the effects of those assumptions. Is the mathematical solution that we've come up with reasonable? Is it useful? Okay, problem solving in our QCAA syllabuses. All 4 syllabuses have this diagram. This is the flowchart or the approach to problem solving. There's 4 steps. The first step is formulate. And this is where we have to work out what to do. We come up with a plan. We create a strategy. What sort of knowledge are we going to need? What sort of concepts will we use from class? What sort of technology might be useful? And then we create our mathematical model. We identify those assumptions and come up with a representation. Once we've done that, hopefully if it's useful, we can use that mathematical model to solve the problem. Now we might solve the problem algebraically, we might use graphs, we might use technology. But along the way, we'll need to explain and justify what we're doing and why we're doing it. Once we've got our solution, we're not finished, we need to check. Does it seem reasonable? Is this right? Can we check it in another way? Can we verify our solution? Once we've identified that, it's probably not a yes or no answer. We want to come up with a qualitative response there. How strong is our model? What are the limitations of the process? How could we improve it? And in a problem solving and modelling task, part of the process would be to refine your model, to make it a little bit better, to improve your solution. Lastly, communicate. Once you've gone through and you've solved your problem, we want to then communicate that response. You need to explain your approach, explain your assumptions, explain the solving process, and explain your evaluation. Okay, if we look in the syllabus at the description for the PSMT, it describes an independent task where you'll be given class time, but you'll also need to use your own time. You'll be given a specific context, and within that context, a specific task that you need to complete or a problem that you need to solve. The conditions for this are that you have a maximum of 10 pages and a maximum of 2,000 words to respond with. After that limit, the marker will no longer mark your work. Okay, let's go to the task sheets. Okay, if we look at the task sheet, you'll be able to find a context section that will explain the scenario. You need to read it carefully. There'll also be a task section that gives specific instructions on what you have to do. You need to read it carefully. Finally, there'll be a checkpoint section. Now, this will give you an approach to solve this problem over the 4 weeks. To start with, in week 1, you need to develop a plan, collect your data, build your model, get started on your report. You need to do a lot of work in week 1. In week 2, you need to finish solving the problem, refine your model, finish writing your draft. So that's 2,000 words done by the end of week 2. Then review and edit your draft. Check that it's finished before you hand it up. Check that it's well done. Upload that draft to Realm before the due date. In week 3 is feedback. Work with your peers to refine your report, improve it even more, and then read your teacher's feedback carefully, and for each point, act on it. Finally, in week 4, you can continue to work on your report, and this is where you can make those fine details, those fine improvements to get the extra 1 or 2 marks. Make sure you upload your final submission well before the due date. Okay, marking your work. In all of your senior subjects, you have what's called an ISMG, an Instrument-Specific Marking Guide. For mathematics, there's 4 criterion. Okay, formulate is the first one. And in this criterion, it assesses your understanding. Do you get the problem? Have you correctly selected the right type of information, mathematical knowledge to solve this problem? Do you understand the mathematics? Do you understand the model that you've created? And we can do that by looking at these key assumptions. Do you understand the context and then how your model fits into the context? And that's what the assumptions are all about. And you need to be able to document, which is to provide evidence of your assumptions, of your observations, and of the information you're going to use to solve the problem. So there's a lot to do with understanding, and there's a lot to do with justifying. Solving, well, that's fairly straightforward. That's where we actually solve the problem. So it's a lot to do with the choices you make, the problem-solving aspect, but then actually using that mathematics. Are you fluent with your procedures? Are you fluent with the use of technology? The next 2 are evaluate and verify and communicate. The evaluation criteria, this is where you need to think in a much bigger picture. You need to be able to synthesize an evaluation. It's a big step up from the C level here to the A level. This is where you go from making statements, just statement, to providing an evaluation. Evaluation is much more in depth. You need to be able to reason, you need to link the statements together. We need to look at the assumptions we've made and think, does our solution seem reasonable? What is the quality of our data like? Could our procedures have been better? Is there a better way to solve this problem? How useful is our solution? Communicate. Well, a couple of parts here. One, this is how well you've structured your assignments. Have you used appropriate terminology? Have you used appropriate conventions? Is it easy to read? Is it coherent? Have you written concisely or have you written far too much? Is your report well organised? This is fairly straightforward and will be similar to all of your subjects. Finally, I wanted you to think about this task as a whole. You're going to need a lot of skills. You'll need some critical thinking skills to apply the mathematics. You'll need some creative thinking skills to solve the problem and refine your model further. You'll need your ICT skills and your writing skills, and it'll be helpful if you can work with your peers and your teacher. In addition, you'll need the personal skills of organisation and motivation to make sure that you're using your time effectively. But in addition to that, this task will give you the opportunity to work on those skills and improve those skills, which will be useful well beyond this PSMT. In the next video, I'm going to explain how you can get started straight away on your PSMT. But to finish this video, let's just check back in with the learning goals. Hopefully you've gained an overview of the instrument and some of the details. You've picked up an understanding of what problem solving is, mathematical modelling, the QCAA's flowchart, as well as the ISMG and how your work's going to be assessed. And hopefully you've understood some of the cognitive and personal opportunities that this task can give you. From here, work with your teacher, read through the task sheet carefully, and check out the other information on Realm.